That might be the right button. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'm so sorry. We thought we were doing something else for a moment, but we are actually here. Hello and welcome to another exciting Vobie One-Eyed Kenobi Showbie with me, Richard Vobes, on the 14th of October 2020. It's 8 o'clock here in the UK, but it could be a different time wherever you are, so please set your watches accordingly. And it's very nice to have you. I hope that you're getting me loud and clear and in some form of vision. I've been playing around with the camera again today to try and sort out the colours and what have you. I don't think I've actually managed to get it, but looking on the monitor it seems okay. Welcome to the lovely Julia and the lovely Judith, who are our monitors this evening. Milk monitors, making sure that the milk is in the tea and the coffee. So if you need tea and coffee, then make sure you order them from those two lovely people. Let's say a few hellos to a few hello people. Hello to Ernie Samat, who says, tally-ho, Richard. Another lovely sunny day here today. We made the most of it. Did Julia and you do the same? Well, we did actually go out. It's funny you should say that. Very kind of you to ask. We did nip into Shoreham and made a very short, rather wacky video to start the ball rolling back on the normal videos that we'll be rolling out at the end of the week when we have run out of the Canal boat videos, which is slowly coming, but there are a few more to watch, hopefully. What else we got there? At Home with Mindy says hello to you. Mike Stevens says Judith was on Pointless this evening as being one of the few names who didn't appear in the Shakespeare play. However, William did call his daughter Judith. Kerry Baldwin is there, hello to you. And Elaine Whitelock, good evening Richard, hope all is well with you. Seems to be, thank you very much. I've been making bread earlier today, which has turned out very nice, and I've had a slice with a little bit of Marmite on it, but let's not start the Marmite debate. Days of Yours says Minsan Konobi, whatever that might mean, but it's probably hello in a foreign lang. Ron Langley is here. Andrew Norris, hello to you. Myriad Genealogy, lovely to see you. Tracy Murphy, hello to you. Glyn Horton, Andrew Murphy, Clive Waterfall, Turbo Stream, Anna Jones, Connor's Dark Corner, nice to see you too, and many of the others who are struggling along to get tuned in to the old Vobie One-Eyed Kenobi. And it's another lovely show. Actually, I'm a bit warm in this beautiful, scarf that Floating Our Boat very kindly donated to the Vobe show. And it means that I can now do this. La, 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 la. I want one for my tea. I won't get one for my tea, but I want one, whatever it may be. Anyway, I hope you are well out there. I'd just like to thank the Labour government for asking for another complete and utter lockdown for 2 weeks. What a marvellous idea that would be. So pleased that they have suggested it. It means that Boris won't entertain it at all. Thank God for that. He is hardly likely to capitulate to the Labour idea, is he? At least let's hope he doesn't. We don't want to get locked down any more than we need to. For goodness sake, this is just going out of control. I have a cup of tea in my cup. What are you drinking this evening? Do let me know in the comments if you're drinking anything unusual or have tried a particularly unusual drink. We want to know about it. As usual, I have forgotten to put the telephone on, so I will do that because the show is always saved by the erroneous phone call. And if you've never phoned the show, then tonight would be the time. Give me a call, a little tinkle. We've only got 2 videos to play into you, so we've got ample time for you to tell me all about your life and how exciting it is and the sort of things that you get up to, whether it's with Ludo, Monopoly, or Snakes and Ladders. Everybody likes a good old snake in the ladder of their tights. So I'm told. I read that in a newspaper. I am making this up, of course, as I go along, because this show contains no content whatsoever, but 68 of you have deemed necessary to come and watch, which means it's obligatory for me to do. Please give me a thumbs up at the appropriate moment when and if you can. If you're struggling with the thumbs up, then I don't mind the occasional thumbs down, but not today. That's the phone whistling as it turns itself on. We have Dubai Dozen. Good evening to you, sir. I hope you are well. Got to get myself over to Wiltshire unless that's been shut down and closed off for the winter. Kate Evans says, hi. I rode my young horse today out on a hack with my friends and their horses. Oh, fantastic. A hack, is that, that's like running fast. Is that like a canter? Is a hack fast? I never quite know. You've got a trot, which I think is just more than a walk, isn't it? A trot is a sort of fast walk. Canter is, what, is that a jog? Would you say a canter is a jog? And a hack is like the marathon man, is it? Like Steve Austin, the bionic man. We have the money, we have the will, we have the bionics belting through him so that he can run in sped up motion, like they used to do in the 1970s, 80s, 70s series, wasn't it? The $6 Million Man. Be interesting to know that. What's faster than a hack? What is the fastest speed a horse can make? I'd be interested to know how fast a horse can go. Julia, of course, is going, oh, yes, Kate, that sounds great, because it is great, let's face it. A hack is out on the roads, says Kate. Oh, I see. Oh, there we are. Didn't know that. A hack is out on the road. I wonder where it gets its name from. It's an interesting word, isn't it? I wonder what the etymology of that is, a hack. So there we go. I see Wales is shut down from Friday. Good job we don't have to go down there. I was going to visit the blowhole, but you can't go to Wales at the moment, which is quite good for Jonah. He doesn't want to get eaten up either. Ron Langley says, will you be doing more villages with Julia off the A24 like you did before lockdown? Did you enjoy those? Were they interesting? I'd love to do more of something, and just open to ideas, really. The thing is, with this, what you call it, the camper, not the camper van, I nearly said the camper van idea. With the canal boat idea, I really enjoyed the sense that we were away doing something in a slightly challenging situation, but not majorly challenging. We weren't up there at Ice Station Zebra on the North Pole freezing our nuts off. Well, one of us would be freezing them off. The other one would be wishing that she had some to freeze off because everything else would be frozen. Anyway, let's be careful how we phrase this. And yeah, I quite like the idea that we were doing something adventurous, which took us out of not so much our comfort zone, although it was, but just a bit out of our normal everyday sphere of life. And I'd like to do more of that. I'd like to. We did make a video where we're coming up with suggestions that'll come out probably beginning of next week or the end of this week, whenever the canal boat ones finish. Horses walk, trot, canter. Oh, gallop. That was the other one. They gallop. Some breeds have occasional gaits. Wow. What is a gait? That's not jumping over a gate, because you spelt that G-A-I-T-S, which is an interesting, the gait of a man or a woman is how they walk, isn't it? Deborah Martin says, a hack is a type of ride you are out on. It can be forest or cross-country. The fastest is a gallop. Oh, yes, so that was the word I was trying to remember, actually. I couldn't remember it, but thank you very much for that. Are we bright enough in the studio? I feel like I should turn the camera's lighting up a bit. I walked up to Black Patch today whilst eating soup. It looked jolly cold. When you say Black Patch Hill, said Turbo Street, what, in Sussex? Not in Sussex. You weren't in Sussex. I mean, if you were in Sussex, you should have popped over. Where is Black Patch in your patch of the world? I'd like to know. Thank you very much. That would be good. Glastonbury Gabriel says, depends on how you drop it. How you drop it from. Depends how you drop it from. I can't remember what we were talking about that was referring to. Days of Yours says, I am drinking blackberry, apple, beetroot, ginger infusion from bags that he purchased in Sainsbury's. I did try dunking some Sainsbury's into my tea. It didn't make the slightest difference, I have to say. Darren Howell is there. Hello to you. does look a bit dark. Is it me, or does it look a bit dark? I'm just going to try and whack the gain up a bit here. I never quite know which way to go. Probably that way. Is that a bit brighter? I don't know. Looks a bit brighter in the studio. For some reason, all the colours seem to have whittled away at the moment. But there we are. Can't be helped, can it? I'm going to have a slurp of tea. That always helps. Ernie Samet says, Richard, I have a couple of fresh ginger cloves, which are boiled, yes, and add a spoon of local honey and it cleans your innards. Ooh, I wonder if I need my innards cleaning. Probably do. What is that? Fresh ginger and cloves. I do like fresh ginger. Don't tend to add any honey or anything because it starts to make you want to have sweet things. I'm trying to avoid sweet things. Trying to adhere as much as I can to a sugar-free diet. Now, sugar, of course, as we know, is hidden in a number of processed foods and a number of other foods. There's natural sugars. We've spoken about this before, but I'm trying to adhere to as much of a sugar-free diet as possible. I suppose honey being a natural sugar is okay. Yes, it's the same in Sussex. I watched your video from a couple of years ago. He says the same one in Sussex, but you weren't actually physically down in Sussex. You visited Blackpatch Hill vicariously, I assume, is what you mean. Because if you were in the area, you should have popped in for a cup of tea. Darren Howard says, looks okay. Oh, that's good. It must be the monitor in here. Everything looks like muddy and murky. Maybe I need to turn the brightness up. But there we go. So that's nice. There was something I was going to mention that it's gone completely out of my nose. Ginger tea is amazing. I like real ginger. What I used to do was get a piece of real ginger and I would get the cheese grater and grate it into, these little, I suppose they are sort of effectively for fruit teas, these infusion pots, which are a bit of a little basket with some plasticated mesh on them. Well, I would grate away, great fun it was, I would grate away the ginger, fill that pretty much half full, and then I would maybe get some lemon and squeeze the lemon juice in and then put the rest of the carcass of the lemon in, perhaps a couple of eighths of them, which would, I guess, make a quarter, and then infuse that. Probably good if you could put that into some sort of little bag, wouldn't it? It would be great if you could get a usable bag and then immerse that in a pot. Never tried that. And then you leave that to stew, then take that out the pot so that you don't bung up the spout. Nothing worse than having your spout bunged up. And pour out the tea. It's delicious, absolutely delightful. Mike Stevens says cloves are an ancient remedy for cleaning the insides. I wonder how they actually do that then. I remember as a kid we used to get oranges at Christmas time. I think it was Christmas time or Halloween. And used to stick these cloves into an orange all the way around. Never quite knew what you did with it thereafter. We spent ages putting in all these things so it looked like some porcupine or something. And that was it. We didn't take them out and then eat the orange. I never quite knew what the point of that was. Perhaps you did that when you were young. And if you did, do you know why we did it? What was the reason? Was it just to create was it a scent? I suppose if you could dry it out on a radiator and somehow crush it up and use it as a pot puree, that could be quite useful. Andrew Norris says ginger tea is amazing. I read that. Just add a lemon and ginger tea. Yes, that's exactly what I was saying. TurboStream says, you can be sure of a visit when I do visit Sussex, Richard. Yes, I would be very interested to have you come down here and poke the Essie, if you so wish. Ernie Samet says, Richard, it may be your dark blue jumper that has made the screen look darker. Maybe that is what it is. Maybe it is. These lights aren't particularly brilliant, to be honest with you. Put it in mulled wine. Oh, is that what you do? Bung it in mulled wine, what the orange thing. I remember doing it as a kid, but I'm sure that they weren't trying to get us to put it in mulled wine. Oranges stuffed with cloves are great for mulled wine. Yes. So it would seem. Add lemon juice and a perfect remedy for a cold. What, with the mulled wine? Hang on, I'm getting confused here. Was the orange with cloves Christingle? I'm not sure whether it was. Christingle. White balance, says Days of Yore. Yes, I've done a white balance. I have done a white balance, actually. And I don't know quite. This camera is not an old camera. It's a relatively new camera, but it's not an up-to-date camera. That sounds like it's an old camera, doesn't it? But I don't mean that at all. It's my old corporate camera, and I used to know it inside out. But in here with these LED lights, these are cheap LED lights. I don't know what Kelvin they are. I thought they're supposed to be daylight lights. So, anyway, I might try switching it to auto again. The screen looks fine to my eyes, says Turbo Screen. Well, that's all right then. We used to hang them up as decorations, and they smelt nice. Maybe that's what it was. I can't imagine that when we did this at primary school. I seem to remember I was about 8 years old. You know, it's a great way to keep kids occupied, wasn't it? Give them an orange and a bunch of cloves. And that's almost the day done, really, isn't it? You're sticking these bloody things in and you can go, oh, yes, very well, Richard. You could probably get another few in there, couldn't you, if you tried harder? Oh, I thought that's enough. No, Richard, put a few more in. Yes, miss. Until actually there's no space left. And I do seem to remember that after a while the orange went mouldy. So we must have hung them up as decorations. Mike Stevens says, no, warm water, grated ginger, a sprinkle of cinnamon and lemon juice will cure a cold, probably. Well, probably the best cure that I've heard of this year. Will it get rid of you know what? Probably. Ernie Samet says, Richard, when do you set up your Christmas decorations? Do you know, if I can get away with it, I don't set up the Christmas decorations. I find the whole thing about Christmas... And now, I'm not being a Scrooge or anything. When the kids were young, yes, it was fun. And it was a sense of occasion. There was a point to it. Now that the kids barely come round and see me at all, there seems almost pointless effort to get out a bit of tinsel to come over here and an old knackered tree to go up and all of that just for myself. Because ultimately, I've got to take it all down again, and it sort of reminds me that I'm very much on my own most of the time, which is a sad state of affairs for anybody who's interested. Of course, I've got you, the lovely viewer, to think about, plus the fact I'm usually out making a video about some such rubbish. So there we are. Well, we've got 2 videos to watch. I think it's almost time at 19 minutes past the hour to have a look at the first one, and then we'll go to the phone calls. And I know there are people just itching to talk to me about the exciting things that are happening in the world today. I know this is one of those up-to-the-moment shows where people are just, you know, on the phone line, just what is it they say? What do they say? It's meltdown on the phone thing. Oh yes, I can see the call centre is on meltdown at the moment. The amount of calls, but we're holding them back because we've got a video first of all. And what did you say? Yes, I'm going to play it immediately. So have no fear. We're going to it soon. Bar humbug, says Julia. Well, it's easy for you, Julia. You've got 2 kids. They get excited at Christmas. They see the lights and the tinsel and all of that. You've got children. I have children, of course, but my children, some of my children, or at least one of my children, have children of their own. So it becomes more exciting for them. We won't be visiting me, I shouldn't think, for a moment. At home with Mindy, have you seen your new grandson yet? Only in 2D on a Facebook page. Gabriel says, Gabriel even. Gabriel is a different name. It has yet to be done. I'm with you on the Christmas deco debate. There we go. What is the point? I mean, if you're on your own, then it's all over in an instant, really. It really is. I mean, I used to think my mum was a bit, misery guts, if you like, Scroogey-like, because she couldn't be bothered with it. But now I'm in that same sort of boat, and you start thinking, well, it's more depressing to have, all this stuff up, and you're just looking at it going, yeah, Merry Christmas. I mean, in the studio, I'll make an effort, no doubt. We've got, I think we've got a couple of Father Christmas, 3 bits of tinsel, and a knackered old Christmas tree, one of these plastic affairs that's got a broken leg from Poundland or somewhere. They'll come out and we'll, be gay and jolly and all those things that you are, and then we just shove them in. I mean, it's just literally in behind the curtain. In fact, I'm going to play a video and then just hoik out some of the Christmas decor, and you'll see how easy it is to suddenly become all Christmassy. So let's go to the video box. And in the video box tonight, we have 2 videos. It's an eeny, meeny, miny, mo, which one goes first. But I think, this is interesting, actually, this one. And Julia will like this most particularly. But we'll have to hold on the video. Sorry about that. Because we have a caller on the phone. Hello. Oops, that's the wrong button. Hello, caller on the phone.
Good evening.
Good evening, Gabriel. Have we won the sweepstake?
I just wanted to ring up and support what you're saying. Christmas is a pile of commercial drivel. It's great for the kids, but when you're on holiday and you see the Christmas decorations on sale in the supermarkets, you think, nah, lost the plot.
It is a very commercial thing. I mean, it's always been a commercial thing. And I think from the beginning, people saw the merit of it being commercialised. So to a degree, I don't mind a little bit of it, because I don't mind companies trying to make a bit of money at the end of the year when it's cold and all of that. But it seems to just go mad and bonkers in the last 20 years.
Yeah, I mean, two things I have the problem with Christmas are, one, when I've been a self-employed small business, or whatever you want to call it, you try and deal with another company who used to work business to business, and you start ringing up towards the beginning of December. Oh, no, we possibly couldn't do anything till after Christmas. This is the 1st of December.
Yes.
And then when you get past Christmas, oh, no, we've got to get packed from Christmas into the new year. It's kind of 6 weeks where business is going to a ghost flow. It's rubbish.
This year,
and then on top of that,
this
whole thing of, it's goodwill to men and all that. Well, why can't we have goodwill to men all year round? I mean, look at 2020. That's a good example of goodwill to all men.
Well, I was going to say, this year, the Christmas is, we're already in it, aren't we? We've had Christmas since March, where businesses have decided to shut down for most of the year. They've been given a chance to go back to it, and then it's like, no, sorry, actually, we just changed our mind. Now that you're just recovering, we're slapping you down again. And I'm afraid to say that, and we're just going to keep threatening that, we're dangling. What's the opposite of a carrot for a donkey? I know there's the stick, but it's like dangling something nasty in front of you. It's like, just as you get yourself back up, we're going to dangle the nasty a turd in front of you that is coming. It's coming. That light at the end of the tunnel. Sorry, that was a piece of grit in your eye. Your tiara is slipped. All right, love. Your tiara. That's the word I struggle with. So yeah, Christmas, I find, as you say, it's a magical time for the children. And when I had children, when my children were young, I should say, because I still do have them, it's lovely. And you get into it and all of that. And if I pop round to see Julia over the Christmas period, if she'll have me in out of the cold, this poor, destitute-looking bloke who's struggling to make a living because the country has shut itself down and we're not allowed out, and we'll have the likes of the trolls out there saying, oh, Richard, you're not supposed to go out, you're not supposed to breathe, at the moment. You're not allowed to even look out your window in case you catch something or pass it on. Then, of course, when I go inside and see Julia's kids, I'll be all jolly and it'll be lovely. But at home, where rarely people come round, and rarely, I mean, it's not that I don't invite them, it's just my house is sort of my workshop. And what's the point? It's over before you know it, and I usually don't have any money to spend on it, and everybody's got to suddenly buy all this token stuff that actually you don't know what to buy people. You buy something that's completely inappropriate because you're panicking, and then you're being given stuff that you never really asked for, and it's all madness.
Not to mention the effect of the sort of demand on parents, they've got to buy their kids the latest mustard, regardless of the cost.
Oh my!
It's not about giving a present and having a nice present. Oh, I want one of these, and if I don't get one of these, blah blah blah.
Yeah, because
because
Gail's got one of these, and Giles has got one of them. And if I don't get one, my kids are gonna, my mates are gonna taunt me, and they'll have a go at me, and it won't, my life at school will not be worth living. Yeah. I'd rather have the COVIDs than go to school without me Nike and me Adidas and me whatever the current, me iPad this and me iBox that and me Skippy, me eye patch here. It is a bit bonkers.
Just reading the comments there, Glenn Hort said exactly the same thing. Why do we need a season of goodwill? We should have goodwill to each other all year round.
Yes, absolutely. Christmas to me, says Mike Stevens, is saying happy birthday to Jesus, who no one seems to remember. Well, there are people who are religiously inclined, and it is a religious ceremony or religious festival, and that's absolutely what it is, and is right and proper. And I completely agree with you, Mike. That's what it is. There are those that don't hold to the religion as such and have, little faith in the God and the story of Jesus, but we can understand and appreciate those that do, and respect those people that do, and respect it as a tradition that at the end of the year, people who'd been working hard on the land or wherever needed time to have a bit of time off and give good cheer to everybody and say, well done, we managed to get through this tough year, which hopefully we will be doing this year, saying thank God we got through it, and looking forward to the next year. So I get that, the religious part of it is an important thing, and I'm not going to jump on anyone who, believes in things. I'm fairly agnostic when it comes to... agnostic? What's the other one? Agnotism, and what was agnosticism, whatever it is. And the other one is one's where you don't believe, one's where you don't know whether you believe or not. What's that one called?
Not giving a toss? Not
giving a toss. Yeah, there's a technical word for it, but that was very close. Very close. Yeah. Atheism. There's atheists who don't believe at all, is it? And an agnostic is the sort of, well, I'm hedging my bets. Maybe it is, maybe it isn't. We'll see. If there's a big friendly bloke with a nice beard looking down at me, definitely I do believe. Yeah, when I get to St. Peter's gates. But, we're not allowed to support our religion. I think it's Michael White says, because we've lost our religion, we're losing our country. It's true. Everything's being whitewashed. I suppose Christmas time is a good time for whitewashing. But the religion is being... Can
you say whitewash? It's a wash of no colour, isn't it now?
I think it must be a wash of no colour, no distinct colour. A transparent hue. I was only out the barn this morning, slapping a bit of paint on, a little bit of transparent hue paint on there as I was... Because, we have to be so careful now. Say the wrong thing and you get slapped down.
Yes.
It's all good fun. What else have we got there? Robert Croser says, but the spiritual side of things should be embraced. Pagan festival before Christianity got hold of it.
Absolutely bang on, Robert. Yeah.
But who was before pagans? That's what I'd like to know. You've got the pagans and then the Christians nick what the pagans had. But where did the pagans get it from?
Well, pagan is basically means of nature. If you actually look at the word. It's of nature, and of course, prior to the Christian religion taking everything over, the respect for nature and living by nature meant that the religion of the gods and the goddesses were all part and parcel of the nature that you lived in, which is why so many people are going back to paganism now, because it kind of relates to the earth we live on. But I mean, the Christians, I mean, they built their churches on pagan sites. They made their festivals land on top of pagan festivals because it just made it easier.
Yes.
You know, when these monks were going around converting everybody. Oh yeah, we're having a lovely knees up there this year, but we're calling it Christmas instead. Oh, so we are. You know, it's just like that's how the church operated in those days.
Yes, I mean, it's interesting, isn't it, that I mean, that is an interesting fact in itself, and I think you're absolutely right there that the Christians adopted the pagan festivals, but which then you just think, okay, put it another way, if we were landing on Mars and a whole load of Martians were there and they said, oh, hello, little green man from Mars, lovely red planet you've got here. And he said, well, I noticed that on the 5th of July, you're all dancing around a particular moonbeam. What's that all about? And they say, oh, well, you know, we on Mars, we celebrate the Saturn rings as they juggle around in the universe. And you say, oh, that's interesting. Well, we're introducing an Earth religion, and we're calling it Earthism. Oh, it's nice. Well, we're going to get rid of your religion, but we're going to have festivals on the same day. On the 5th of July, you can still dance around your moonbeams, but we're going to call it this. If you look at it like that, which I know is an absurdly stupid way of looking at it, but it's almost as if the Christian people, and I don't want to offend anybody, but of course this will, it has just gone, well, we haven't got any celebrations of our own, so we'll nick theirs and just rename them.
Yeah. Yeah, quite.
Isn't that what that is? It's like you dance around a moonbeam. Well, we can't have you having your own religion, so we're going to make something up. Well, basically, we nick your idea, which is great. Dancing around moonbeams. Wish we'd thought of that. We haven't got any ideas of our own. So actually, we're going to call that Earthism. Just it's a little bit of branding, rebranding, and that's how it works. I mean, I don't know. Because surely you would have thought the Christians would have had a whole plethora of their stuff. Why would they try and mash it in with the pagans, other than the fact that, the pagans would go, oh, all right, Gov, that sounds better than our naff old thing. We were just, saying hello to the priestess and the gods, and that when the sun came up, we thought that was cool. But actually, we can still dance around the maypole, and we just call it in the love of God instead of in the love of Zeus or whomever.
Yeah, well, that's quite right. I mean, again, Robert Crozier is right on when he says there the devil was originally green with antlers. And I mean, the cloven hooves and the horns that we sort of associate with the devil come from that, because the early church, in order to take over and sort of become like the religion, the easiest way is to replace things that are already there with things of yours and sort of kind of slip it in through the back door.
Yes, absolutely. Well, let's move away from slandering any more religious faiths. But the main thing about the Christmas thing is that yes, we've forgotten the reason, I suppose, that people used to adhere to Christmas, and we've got a very commercial now. It is all about spending money and getting drunk
and getting into debt.
That's the other thing, and I think that's a fascinating thing, because every year you'll hear in January on the phone on talk-in programs, you'll hear some woman somewhere who says, I ain't got no money. And she always talks like that. I ain't got no money, but I'm not letting my kids not have what they want on Christmas. So I've maxed out on my credit cards, and I've got 15 of them with about £32,000 debt on each one. But my kids have a human right to have a good Christmas. And they end up paying, for the next 5 years, a Christmas 25 years ago, and they keep repeating this. And you think, oh, God, no wonder. And yet they've got Sky Television and all the other, Netflix, I suppose, is the latest thing.
Of course they
have. And all of that. And I don't understand how people can max out on these things, manage to pay that, have no income, and yet still manage. My kids have got a human right, They've got a human right. And I think no one has a human right. You're in the universe. It's a cold universe. If you survive, you survive. You're lucky. No, there's no human right. You happen to be human. My goodness, you have a right. And here they all are. Whatever you think is your right. I mean, it's bonkers, all this, you know, these are my human rights. It's like, well, they're only agreeable things that other humans say, well, I think this is quite sensible that we have this, and maybe, you know, people have a right to that. But, you know, it's not like it's a universal law, like you are... I can't think of what a universal law would be. You know, you are the sun. Anyway, thanks for thanks for ringing in. Really got us onto a philosophical point there, which has we've got to get, as somebody says, we've got to get through Halloween first. Yes, thank you very much. That's true. We have. We've got to get to. I don't know how we got onto Christmas. Somebody asked me, when do I put my Christmas decorations up? Said, be careful what you ask out there, because you may get a whole load of crap in return. Thank you very much.
I'll tell you, it's not Halloween. It's Samhain, by the way.
It's what?
It's Samhain.
Samhain?
Samhain, yes. It's the pagan festival of Samhain, which is what Halloween's, Nick. But then that's not the church. That's just American commercialism.
Well,
Halloween's American.
No, it's not. We've had Halloween before the Americans had it.
It's an American tradition.
No, it's not. All Hallows Day. No, it's got...
Samhain. Samhain is the original... It's the original...
I've never heard of Sam Hain. Who is he?
Yeah.
Sam Hain?
Check it out. Google it.
Well,
I'll leave you with that thought.
Yeah, all right. That's what a load of old tosh that is. It's Old Hallows Day is a very old tradition, even before America was made.
Julia will tell you. She knows what it's all about.
Right. Sam, what did you call him? Sam
Hain.
Sam Hain. Yeah.
Yeah. It's one of the quarter days of the
I thought, isn't that a beer? Sam...
No, that's Sam Smith.
Oh, Sam Smith. Sam Smith?
Old Brewery Bitter. Probably the finest beer in the world.
That's John Smith's you're thinking. I was thinking of the American... Sam... There's American lager, isn't there? Sam something or other. Oh, it doesn't really matter. Anyway, All Hallows Eve. There we are. Mike Stevens. Yeah, it's a very old-fashioned... It's and Connor's Dark Corner says it's Irish. So there we are. Now we're all completely confused. At all. Take care.
That's what that would be then. We'll be having a lovely day there, Stratford. Be looking after yourself.
Yeah, much obliged. Look after... Go and kiss the Barney Stone. Blarney.
Oh, I've already done that.
Oh, good for you.
But you can't do that now. That'll spread COVID.
Oh, that'll spread your COVID. Oh, yes. People going around kissing the Blarney Stone. You'll be in trouble then.
Yeah, kick it instead.
Yeah.
Right, I'll be and leave you. Have a good one.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye. Oh, well, it's always fun making stuff up, isn't it? All decked out for Synod of Nicaea in AD 325 under Constantine, says Mary at Gina Lolly. All decided at the Synod of Nicaea. That's probably not how it's pronounced, but that's how I'm reading it. In AD 325 under Constantine. Under Constantine, is he must have been a pope. I'm just working this out. AD 325, so we had the Romans in Britain around then, didn't we? Just before they decided to pack up and go home. And of course, in my mind, all the Romans had a nice Italian accent. I know we've had this discussion before, but you can imagine them. Aye, there's a synod going on. I can't do the Italian. Aye, mamma mia, they're having a synod. Oh, not another synod. I've just got my spaghetti on. Yes, get all of the Romans, the Italian ones, none of the posh ones that speak in Greek and all of that. We cannot understand, and none of them. Anyway, I've got a lovely jar of this. I can't remember the brand of the thing that they always put on the advert. I don't have television, so I can't remember the brand. Anyway, whatever. Connor, trying to offer him to Dow Egbert's coffee instead. Yes, that would be all right. Nice cup of Dow Egbert's. Lovely. I think churches will be making a comeback soon, says Graham Cass. They better hurry up before they all crumble down. Michael White says Nicaea was a disaster. Nicaea was a disaster. Oh, Nicaea was a disaster. There's been no disaster nicer than Nicaea, 'cause Nicaea was a disaster. I'm not sure what Nicaea was. My Christmas Day, we're still on Christmas. My Christmas Day highlight will be picking up the veggies from the allotment, hopefully. Golly, people can throw the veggies off the old Christmas table pretty far in your household, Turbo. Yeah, let's do a show. See who can throw the old Brussels sprouts the furthest. Whoa, that got on the allotment. Look, old Farmer Giles there bending over. Marvellous stuff. Stephen Field says, I've never heard of Halloween until I came to Canada. Where did you come from, Stephen Field? Halloween has been, so it goes back to All Hallows Day, doesn't it? That's a very ancient custom. Connor's Dark Corner, the American don't make everything in the world. Yeah, I'm sure they didn't make Halloween. Sam Smith, that's Sam Smith. He did say Sam Smith. Did I say? Yeah, Sam. Oh, yeah, I was thinking of John Smith. Yeah, Sam Smith is brewed about 100 metres down the road from me, says Edwold, whatever. Is it? Robert, it's horrible stuff, isn't it? It's lager. I'm not a lager drinker. Robert Baxter says the pumpkins are American. I'm not sure about the rest of it. Well, I know the Americans did make it into a massive, great big... they made a vent out of it. I think they invented the trick-or-treating, didn't they? Or it certainly turned it into a thing in which kids can go up to strangers' doors, potentially paedophiles, and offer to do a trick for them. That always seemed a bit wrong to me. Linda Kane says All Hallows Day was a thing, but not all the associated things from the United States, as now more money spent on more spending money some people haven't got. Yes. It's my human right to have a All Halloween's Day, and it's my right of my kids to dress up as witches and spiders' webs, and I've maxed out on my cards. Hello, Captain Vobes, says Jeff Mahoney. Hello, Captain Mahoney. How are you out there? You're the man who's responsible for all the terrible things in America. Is that not true? Is that not true? He said, wait a minute, what have I come into? I only tuned in to see how you're doing. How are you, Jeff? Lovely to see you out there. Kerry Baldwin says, we certainly didn't celebrate Halloween when I was young. I do remember when I was a kid in the 70s that we had Halloween, but it was very much more about the ghostly side of things and less about the dressing up and the camp side. Oh, hello, I'm a little ghosty, knocking at your door. Hello, are you a postie? Let me see if I'm sure. Not a very good rhyme. Jack Hackett, says Robert Croser, apropos of nothing. And Gabriel says Tadcaster is a Phi town. Whatever is a Phi town. Winchester, says Stephen Field, is where he came from. Glastonbury says Sim Smith's Old Brewery Bitter is one of the finest ales in the world. It must be the different one. I'm thinking of the American Sam. There's an American one, isn't there, that does little bottles of those... I thought we went to, when we came over to America, my friend, was it Paul? I think one of us, we went and did a tour at one of these terrible canning factories, and they had all this lager that we had to sit down and try. John Smiths and Samuel Smith are related, I believe. They may not be related now, though, however. They may still be related, but 6 foot under, I guess. It's okay, GG. Been there, got a couple of years. Want to head back to the Pennines, missing the hills. John Smith's the Labour leader? No, I don't think it means him. Sam Adams. Yes, Sam Adams. That's what I was thinking of. Thank you. I knew it. Sam Adams. That was the one. Anyway, we were going to go and watch this video. Turbo Stream has been out and about, and he went to a place that's very familiar to the lovely Julia and myself not less than a week ago. Cast your ear holes at this.
Well, I've been inspired. I've been inspired by Richard and lovely Julia's Canal trip. So today's walk is beyond the Stratford and Avon Canal, north of Stratford. Well, this is Bridge 55 on the Stratford and Avon Canal. Just thought I'd show you a typical bridge of this in this county. As you can see, it's quite a narrow entrance, but there's something special about these bridges. Let's go and have a look. Well, this is exciting. This is a very short aqueduct in the village of Wootton Wowen, or Warwen, I think it might be pronounced. It's spelled Warwen. It's a very short iron aqueduct, similar to the Edstone aqueduct.
Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. Yeah, this is the Christmas you get from me. See, oops. See, I told you you got a dodgy leg. It's dodgy leg. You got to put a hand on it like that, and nobody would possibly know there was any difference. So, Turbo Stream there at the Wowen, whatever. On the longest aqueduct, I didn't know it was the longest. We didn't even know we were going to go across it until we went across it. Suddenly, 1 minute we were on the canal, the next second we were going across this bloody long canal. And it was long, but I wouldn't say it was massively long. But then I'm used to the Pont Cysulti, and of course that's not in England, that's in Wales. By the way, you're not allowed in Wales. You probably won't be allowed to go to the Pont Cysulti on the Llangollen canal at the moment. Are you happy? Are you happy, Mr. Christmas? I'm very happy. Oh, he's very... Andrew Norris says, Richard, I caught up with your reading today. You mentioned making puppets for a puppet show. That sounds like a great project. Let me know what you had in mind and I'll see what I can do, make with paper. Oh, that would be... That's Christmas done for another year. That would be absolutely marvellous. Yes, I think that would make a fantastic project, don't you? We'll make up the some sort of booth. We're following the footsteps of Walter Wilkinson. For those of you who don't know what we're talking about, then this is all a load of old piffle. But Andrew Norris is the man. We want a Punch and Judy, we've got to have Punch and Judy, basically. But I think... not so much the horrible hook-nosed Punch that you see now. I think Walter Wilkinson's puppets were a little bit more refined and less grotesque, more humane, I think. I think he had a little bit more of actually from where you come from, really, not come from, but where you live now, Andrew, more Eastern European, because he did travel around a lot. And I think he was influenced by the puppets theatres of the European puppet theatres, probably because I think there's a greater tradition and more refined storytelling from there than over in England, which I think became a bit more coarser. Because we're sort of on the outer skirts and we're on an island, I think that's where things like the old Kiss Me Quick hats and the saucy postcards, we're just a little bit more coarser. Look at the cockneys and things like that. And I think the more refined stuff, we're refined in other ways, of course. When you watch something of eminent importance on YouTube, such as the Vobes show, you see total and utter refinement. But I think the puppetry from the Eastern European countries was a lot more, I don't know, I can't think of another word than refined. So that would be marvellous. Mr. Mark is saying hello, says Nikki Jess. Hello to Mr. Mark. Julia says we need an Eric puppet. That would be great, actually. We did try to get an Eric puppet made once. We really did. Julia and I did meet somebody who was going to make an Eric puppet for us, believe it or believe it not. Jeff Mahoney says he commissioned an Eric puppet at one time. Not sure if it was... Oh, there we go. No, it was never followed through, unfortunately. We do have another caller on the telephone. Let's see who it is calling in on this number. Hello, caller, calling in.
What ho, what ho.
What ho to you. Mr. Norris, how are you?
Indeed. I'm good. Following on from this puppet thing, back in the 70s I was working with a puppet theatre and I did make some puppets, but these were out of wood.
Oh, right.
But I could try and make something out of paper mache.
Well, yes. I mean, he did make his out of wood, he says, because at the beginning of the book he talks about gluing things back on and reshaping faces. But we don't need to go to that. Papier mâché is quite heavy enough when it's dried.
Indeed, yeah. You just want to, space to put your finger inside the head, don't you?
Yes, I just need to stick my finger right in there.
Okay. Oh, I see Linda Kane's put a message up that if I Google images, Walter Wilkinson's photos will come up. Okay, well, I wanted to get an idea of what you were looking for, of the puppet faces, but if I Google these images, then I'll get an idea from those.
You will. Just so that we all have a quick image of what we've got in mind, I can put on the screen exactly... Hang on, just by the magic of Instantgram, I can bung on the screen a picture of the puppets that he is talking about.
Okay. Cool.
There is Walter himself, and he's got some sort of smock type thing, or I don't know what colour that is, because this is a black and white picture, unfortunately. But
is there anybody else out there who could make the costumes?
Well, that's what we need. Somebody who's very good with costumes. That would be brilliant. It would be great if we've got it all in-house, all... devotees of the...
The one on the left looks like Hitler. Okay, but I'll deviate from that a little bit.
What else have we... Hang on a minute. How do we get back out of that?
So they're actually very human faces.
Yeah, they're not like the Punch and Judy faces that you see, which are much coarser and very exaggerated, aren't they?
Yeah,
with the big jaw that Punch always has, this massive, great jaw, and the chin that juts out. Whereas actually here, they don't seem to have chins at all. They're sort of more like potatoes with noses on.
Yeah, actually, potato would be a good mould to build around. That's a great idea.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah,
with
cool.
quite big eyes as well.
Yes, yeah. They're like Thunderbird eyes.
Yeah. Let's have a look. There's another picture here. Oh, that's the barrow that we've got to get made. That'll come up on the screen in a second.
Okay.
And there he is. He looks a bit older in that picture. I think that's perhaps... he's staged that, I think, but that could well be the Downs, although I don't think it's the Downs because there's a great rock behind him, and it doesn't look like the Downs, but bicycle wheels and a little thing.
Cool, what a great booth, yeah.
And a great big booth, yeah. Well, that could be easily replicated, I would imagine.
Yeah, I'm sure there's some carpenters out there.
And so that would be good.
Amongst your listeners, yeah.
So,
okay, well, I'll think of it as a kind of early winter project when I can't get to the village, and then I'll try and make up something here and send them on to you.
There's another picture here,
Puppets, yeah.
which with an element of costume on it. Presumably that's a pearly queen. That one there with all the sequins and buttons on him.
Okay, I'm still waiting for it to come up.
Oh, right, sorry. With a neckerchief and a flat cap and a sort of...
Oh, right, okay.
Yeah, I think that's a pearly queen, that one.
Oh, it's a pearly king.
Pearly king, I beg your pardon, pearly king. With the bit of blusher on his cheeks and all of that.
Yeah.
It's great. There's a closer upper coming up shortly. And then there's a woman here. The woman's very gypsy-like, and she does look very European, doesn't she? Well, you'll see in a minute when it comes.
Yeah.
I can't get it any bigger than that, unfortunately. But
I'll copy it and blow it up.
yeah,
Okay,
and then
we'll wait for it to come up.
they've got some sort of
Okay.
donkey or something. I don't know what that is. A dragon, a donkey, a cow. I think it's a cow. I think it's.
All right. Oh, she does look. Yes, European, East European.
Yeah.
Okay.
Interesting. It's interesting stuff. Some people.
It's great stuff. Yeah.
Some people thought, says Days of Yore, he was off his trolley. Well, reading his book, he does sound a bit off his trolley. Could be a pearly queen.
Oh,
Yes.
that's a horse there. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, it's is it a
Yeah.
horse or a cow? It's got a horn.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
So
It might be a cow then. Yeah.
yeah, like a pinky cow.
Yeah.
And then there's it looks like a Pierrot costume, a Pierrot puppet or something.
Okay. Yeah.
Little white clowny thing. But I just need a Punch and Judy to sort of, in the shots, the shots that I would be doing if I'm out replicating his journey, we'd just see, shots of the booth going up and Punch and Judy. We probably wouldn't hear very much as such, but it would be great to have some close-ups of them interacting, and if we could get some kids sitting round, would be great.
Brilliant Linda Kane, who knows everything, says it says Bullock in the picture, so well spotted, Linda.
A bullock in the picture. Sorry. Oh yes, that's right. During the dance, something wearing a bullock. Oh yes, you've got some text here. This is I must go down to the Pitt Rivers Museum, wherever that is. I don't know if they're still there. I wonder where that is, because is he down in Cranbourne Chase, Pitt Rivers?
I don't honestly know. I know it's Oxfordshire, but that's as far as I know.
Yeah, it's interesting. Toy theatre puppets, blah blah blah. Anyway, how exciting that is.
Yeah, it'd be great. Yeah. All right, man. I'll be thinking about it, and then I'll see what I can do, and I'll keep you posted.
You're a star. You're an absolute star. How brilliant is that? Puppets made by Andrew Norris.
Great idea. Yeah.
And what would be great is if you could do, I'm not pushing you anymore, but to do a little bit of videoing about how you've made them and the process, because I think people would find, I think that whole story there is not just he went here and he went there and here's a puppet, but the whole story about, this is how we've made our puppets to replicate his, and in the book he describes his a bit, so I could photograph those pages. So so in the story we could. Okay. It all just helps. Yeah.
No, this chap that I used to work with, he was connected with the local educational college, and he used to drive around in a Morris, not Morris Minor, but one with the extended back and the wonderful.
Oh, the Traveller.
The Traveller, and he built his own little stage, and these were string puppets, and we would go around performing in hospitals and fetes, and he wrote the stories as well as making the puppets. It was a joy. I did that for about a year.
There is something magical about inanimate objects that apparently come to life. Yeah.
Yes.
And how it fires the imagination. I think that's why things like Thunderbirds, although it was very high tech, but also, it really fired the imagination, even though it was on the small screen at the time.
I grew up on Thunderbirds.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
And I remember learning that they weren't real people sometime later, thinking,
right. Okay.
Oh, really? and then feeling a bit duped that I'd been watching puppets.
Oh, and you never spotted the strings?
Well, I don't know what it was. I do remember having that weird feeling that, wait, they're not real people. And for some reason, I suppose I had suspended my belief so much, disbelief so much that I really got into it, because everything looked so good. Mind you, back in those days, the television was peering through.
Was fairly primitive.
And
as a child, you don't notice these details.
No.
Not until later you can see that the strings are so obvious.
Yes, and then you start going, I see, these are puppets, aren't they?
Yeah. Okay, great. So
brilliant.
Give me something to think about.
Yeah. Oh, fantastic. Thank you very much, Monsieur Le Norris.
Okay.
You take care and look after yourself.
Yeah, you too. Thanks, Richard. Yeah.
Cheers.
Bye.
Thanks for calling in. Bye.
Pleasure. Bye.
What about that there? How about that, ladies and gentlemen? Wouldn't that be amazing? Get the puppets made by Monsieur Le Norris, the Andrew Norris puppets. That'd be fantastic. It'd be great if we had, the fans, the viewers, it's all in-house. We don't have to go elsewhere to get all the stuff, and then we make it and everybody's part of it. I think that would be fantastic. Get a potato with big eyes, says Days of Yore. Puppet Master Smock, says Nikki Jess. Yes, we probably need one of those as well. Don't forget the sausages. Sausages. Mike Stevens says they look very friendly puppets. Yes, and the punch, as I say, I'm sure there is something in that we had a much coarser outlook on life. I don't know why that would be, and less sophisticated if you look at stuff. I mean, you only have to look at our the way we do politics at Prime Minister's questions. In a way, they say it's a Punch and Judy, don't they? It's a sort of very coarse way of doing things. We have that, I think, running through our veins. That's not to say that we can't be terribly sophisticated like the BBC used to be during the war with received pronunciation. This is the BBC Home Service. For those people who do not speak like me, please will you learn to talk properly. You are now supposed to get rid of your terrible, awful regional accents and speak properly with received pronunciation. If you can't manage it, I'm afraid you will remain the hoi polloi forever. Thank you. And now the Home Service produces some treacle programmes for you. Oxford, says Linda Kane, ? I thought Pitt Rivers, I know he did a lot in Cranbourne Chase, which is in Wiltshire, isn't it? Why do cows have bells round their necks? Because their horns don't work, says Days of Yore. Probably still there, not necessarily on display. Yes, it would be good to maybe go and find out, actually. I'll have to get in touch with them and see if they will dig them out for me. Preferably, out of this stupid COVID nonsense. It would make an interesting, again, that on its own would make an interesting video. The Invisible Man stands next to him. I don't know what you mean by that. The puppet smock to hide his arms. Oh, yes. The creamy linguistics of Monster Norris, says Nikki Jess. I think Nikki Jess is actually Mark Selwood in disguise. Badum-tish, Julia. Did you just badum-tish that? I think we should have a look at our next video, which actually is by our caller, a first caller of the evening, which was Gabriel from Glastonbury. And it just so happens, I have it here. Now, you may remember that earlier in the show, we were talking about Christianity and paganism and all of that. Well, the pagans may have built Stonehenge, which was an amazing monument of its time and has lasted, most of it has lasted for however long it is, 3,500 years, whatever, or more, probably, 4,500 is it? But some of the cathedrals are splendid examples of the incredible masonry and design. Glastonbury Gabriel was talking to a very splendid chap who knew his onions when it came to architecture. And we will continue with part 2 of that now. Well, not now, obviously, because I have to fart about with the bloody what's-the-name. But now we can continue with it.
You'll notice up in the vault, as we call it, the ceiling, I prefer to think of it, of the nave, there's a decoration, and that's actually a medieval design which was rediscovered in a Victorian restoration and reapplied. And in fact, originally it would have varied from one end of the nave to the other, and it's a design based on the Persian tree of life, and it would have varied from one end to the other to show that we're all varied and we're all imperfect. Here we've got the market scene. What on earth's that doing in a cathedral? Well, the simple answer is we don't know, but there are depictions of everyday life. But it's an interesting market scene because There are two men on the left holding a beast upside down. One of the beast's feet is in the mouth of another creature, and then in the centre there's a dog, and on the right two more fellas holding a sheep, and they appear, one of them appears to be peering up the sheep's bottom, which I thought was a bit strange. And my ever-practical wife suggested that if you were buying a sheep, you might want to see whether it was pregnant or whether it had worms. Some of this is pure speculation on my behalf, so you must understand that. This here is the north porch, Magnam Portam Canonicorum. It's the great door of the canons. The members of the clergy associated with the cathedral would have lived along the green in the precinct, and this is the door by which they would have entered. It's very grand. It's the grandest entrance to the cathedral, and it has this trumeau in the middle so that they would have come in two neat, orderly rows to begin the procession and thence to service. And I like to think that the Masons, all the Masons I've met, have a sense of humour, and I'd like to think that one of them had a sense of humour, and he thought, this is the great door of the canons, I'll put a cheeky little market scene up there, just where they've come in. That's a singing gallery up in the clerestory, so we believe a few of the chosen boys' voices, they would have been placed up there to sing as the canons came in. And if you look to the right and down a bit, you can see there's two heads. These are corbels, and we have it from the archive that they bore planks of oak from Winscombe, on which was situated an organ, and the organist would have squeezed out through one of the triforium arches. The head for height was quite small too, and the pintles and the latch mechanism for the door are still there and can be seen on a High Parts tour.
So this is all about performance and awe and...
This was not a church for the lay people. This was the bishop's church. The original founding in the old cathedral, this is Wells' new cathedral. The original church founded in the 700s was a minster church. That was a sub-church, if you like, from where ministers would go out to minister to the people. Priests would go to minister to the people. And in 909 or thereabouts, that minster was given cathedral status. This little door here, it's a very plain door. This is the doorway to the Master Mason's office. As Wells is unusual, it shares with York the fact that it has a drawing floor up above the north porch. They had no computer-aided design and they had no paper, really. So, to make a design visible, they would pour plaster of Paris and let it level and set, and then they would scratch the design into it and explore designs, and then from that templates could be made. The stairway is filled in, it's blanked off at the top, and it's used to store candles now. But again, on a High Parts tour, he knows in there. There's a beast here, interesting beast. It appears to be licking its own back, but I don't know whether you can see and whether the camera will pick up that its tongue is pink.
Oh yes.
The west front would have been painted and the stone would have been painted inside, and there would have been wall paintings which were used for teaching. And at the Reformation we had a particularly zealous dean here, and the whole lot was lime washed over. I mentioned the fact that this was, of course, would have been a Catholic cathedral, and there was a doctrine at the time of purgatory, that notion that on death the soul was weighed, judged, and according to minor sins would have to spend a period of time in purgatory. It doesn't sound like a very nice place to be before it moved on somewhere hopefully nicer. And a scheme was established whereby you could leave an amount of money with the cathedral, and a chantry priest would say prayers for the soul, and if you were extremely wealthy you could have your own chantry chapel. And the chantry chapels in Wells, we don't know exactly how many there were, opinions vary. They should all have gone at the Reformation, when the doctrine of purgatory was abolished in the Church of England. One outside Bishop Stillington's chantry and memorial chapel was blown down with dynamite. They were gunpowder, they took it that seriously. But this is the chantry chapel of Bishop Bubwith, and there's a little altar inside where the Mass would have been said for his soul. And it's survived. It's been grafted onto the fabric of the cathedral, and it remains. And it's, of course, it's a later style. It's all sorts of interesting little creatures in the stonework.
I suppose I'm destined for purgatory, but I'm not quite sure which door I would go in. Depends very much. Anyway, enjoyed that very much, Gabriel. Thank you very much for sending in part 2. Looking forward to the next part, which I assume is following. Interesting to think about the bloke looking up the sheep's bottom. Not that interesting, I suppose. But his wife was probably right. You are probably perhaps looking to see if it's pregnant or got worms. I often look at my bottom to see if I've got worms. But, so far, I haven't found any. At least not clean ones. Lovely Julia says, thanks, Gabriel. Turbo Stream says, well done, GG. Enjoyed that. Very interesting, says Kerry Baldwin. And Andrew Norris says, nice guide you had. Nice guide? Nice to see you. To see you nice. Interesting video. You can't see his lips move, says Days of Yours. Yes, he would make a good vent, wouldn't he? Ventriloquist, actually. I imagine there's quite a lot of work at the moment for ventriloquists. If you're in that line of work, it's great, isn't it? You can just put your mask on. As soon as COVID's over, obviously, we will be able to tell who was good and who was not so good. But in the meantime, you could do that for the rest of your life, couldn't you? Say, oh, well, I've become a ventriloquist during the COVID. There was a lot of time when I was sitting down at home, couldn't go anywhere. I thought I'd learn a new skill. And I've learned ventriloquism. I'm actually quite good at it. And then you reach down into your pocket. You get your puppet there and you reach down. And I have got a mask. I carry one of these. You won't ever see me wear one on camera. I refuse to have a photograph of me wearing the silly thing. But I tell you, I have found amazing good use for these. Absolutely fantastic. Really good at cleaning the old lenses. Very handy, because you blow your nose, don't you, on your handkerchief. But these, get the camera lens, good for cleaning that too. Marvellous. And also, if you've only bought, perhaps, at Christmas time, we were talking about that, just a few Brussels sprouts, you could probably get them in there and carry them home. You often see these masks on the floor. People have abandoned them. And it's a bit like the old 35mm plastic pots that you used to get film in. People are desperate for, what other use can I use it? Once I've posted off the film and had it processed, you'd end up with these little black pots with plastic caps, and you've filled them with aspirins, and you've put in as much damp soil as you can and grown some mint, or you've got the watercress going out of it, and you're thinking, what do I do with the other 25,000 of them? And it's the same with these. People are thinking, what can I do with these when it's all over? Well, also, I think you could make them as catapults. I think that has given to schoolboys or schoolgirls. Stick a conker in there at the right time of the year. Make a fantastic catapult. There's lots of things. Of course, a little hat for a small doll, especially out there in the rain. Another perfect idea. I'm sure you could come up with 100 million ideas. But I'm never going to be seen wearing one, because I wear it because I have to, because I don't want to break the law, but I protest about it. I don't think it makes the slightest bit of difference. The fact that I've just taken it out here in the studio, it's a good job there's nobody else in here, because wherever I've gone, that material may have got a bit of COVID, stuck to it. Opening it up like that, using it as a catapult as you would in ordinary everyday life, bound to have passed on some of the particles. Absolutely useless thing against getting disease. But they have other merits. Codpiece, yes, there you go. Make a mighty fine codpiece. And Jeff Mahoney says you should sell Vobes masks. Yes. I'm not sure that would give the right message. Basically he shuts people up is what it says. Hammock for a guinea pig. I like it. Yes, that's true. Days of Yours says that's immaterial. It is immaterial. You can get plastic ones too. Marvellous stuff. Well, listen, folks, it's been a lovely show. It's been a little bit relaxed on today's show. Handy for carrying a single orange back from Morrison's. Yes, just before you put your cloves into it during the Halloween parade. And I don't agree with the mask things either, says Robert Baxter. Exactly, good for you. Oh, and a good idea, Audrey. Small pet hammock. Perfect. String it between two upright pencils. Linda Kane says France has declared a state of emergency. Paris is under curfew. Discuss. Paris is under curfew. Yeah, well, I was listening to... I happened to put on the PM programme whilst I was cooking earlier this evening. It's always good to get the other side of the story, isn't it? You know, what the fake people are talking. So I put on the BBC. And it turns out that just before I get onto that, I was listening to some Labour woman. I can't remember her name now. She was on Talk Radio, I think, being interviewed about her policy. Somebody else from the Labour was being interviewed by what's his name, Robinson. What's his name? Not Tony Robinson, the other Robinson who does the Today programme, and they were saying, yes, okay, well, you haven't costed this out, because they all came out with the same old trite, didn't they? They said, oh, yes, we think everyone should be locked down. So what, you lock down all the people in Cornwall, would you, where it's actually quite low, or people in Pembrokeshire, where there's barely anything? Oh, yes, but it's all rising all over the country. Right, okay, so businesses in Pembrokeshire or North Norfolk, where there's very little COVID, they've all got to potentially have their businesses ruined because you're locking them down, are you? Oh, well, everybody, you know, there'll be a measure of a package of measures so that they wouldn't go into ruin. Oh, yes. And I noticed that on your press release all about this, you haven't actually costed this out. Oh, well, the government didn't cost it out the last time in March. Yes, well, that was the first time that it had ever happened. And it was all a surprise, and we had no idea what was going to happen as a result of it. Now that we do know that it cost absolutely billions, are you suggesting that we now just cost more Yes, but what we're trying to do is to save people's jobs. But you don't seem to get it, do you? If you lock us down, people won't have jobs. The government is running out of money left, right and centre. They can only print so much before it just makes inflation a nonsense. You're an idiot. The great thing is, as I said right at the beginning, the fact that Keir Starmer has announced this and suggested to Boris Johnson to shut everything down and the second 2 to 3 week lockdown means it won't happen, because Boris is not going to concede to the Labour. He's not going to say, well, they got it right, we got it wrong. So that's okay. If everyone is wearing a mask, it reduces the chances of transmission to 5%, says Mary at Genealogy. Well, there we go. Let's get everybody in a mask, because heaven forbid that 95% of it can still get to us. Whew! Tracy Murphy says, enjoyed the show tonight. Look forward to stealing another great video. What? To seeing, sorry, not stealing, another great video tomorrow on the narrowboat. Yes, there is another great video coming, actually. Wore my mask for the first time last week and I needed to have blood tests. Oh, I'm so sorry. That's what happens if you wear a mask. You do need to have blood tests afterwards. They want to force digital money on you so that they can control... Yes, that's the last thing I want people to know. You know, I love paying in cash. Paying in cash just gives you that ability to... Nobody knows... you know, who you've paid and why you've paid and how much you've paid. It just gives, I mean, not that one's got anything to hide particularly, but it doesn't, that's not the point, is it? If people can just keep tracing you because you've been, oh, you went into Morrison's today and you bought this, this and this. Oh, and you spent 25 quid over in Sainsbury's today and you were over there at 9:45. It's too traceable. I don't like it. I think I don't know that there's a big mastermind behind it. I'm not really. I think we're moving into that, but not purposefully, but unavoidably, because it is it is that awful thing, convenience. Glastonbury Gabriel, we're only in this situation because nobody seemed to bother with social distancing. I can't agree with that. I don't think that's got anything to do with it at all. Absolutely, if you protected the vulnerable, you wouldn't need to protect the rest of society. Chip and pins are supposed to be in in the body eventually. You're not putting a chip in my body. There has to be at some point where a democracy says, my body is sacrosanct. You cannot have a society, a free democratic society, in which the government has the power to do whatever it likes over you. That's not a free and democratic society, is it? That's a society in which the government has decided that they are going to take over control. Masks are not to stop you getting it, they're to stop you spreading it. Yes, but if you haven't got it, you're not going to spread it, are you? I like customers who pay me in cash, says Kerry Baldwin. Yes, I like customers who pay me in cash. Where the cure is worse than the virus, madness ensues. Absolutely, totally agree with you there. Will anyone have the vaccine when there is one? Well, I bet you there'll be a vaccine, but it won't be any good. I bet you there won't be a vaccine that is any good. We've tried to get a vaccine for the common cold. We tried to get vaccines for a number of things. Yes, we have vaccines about certain things, but they keep coming back. I don't think we'll get a vaccine very quickly. I think that locking people down is only pushing us into the deeper winter. And I think that unless we get herd immunity going and we protect the vulnerable and let the rest of the society get on with it. What seems to be happening, somebody said this, and I thought this is the absolute truth of the matter, is the government seems to be trying to prevent death. And this is it. You cannot prevent death. It is a part of life. And it's almost as if, well, we are going to stop people from dying, come what may, even if their time is up. They must not die. And if they do die, then it has to be from COVID so that we're proved right. You cannot mitigate against death. If you could, we wouldn't be allowed to drive because there's a chance that we'll crash a car or another car will crash into it. We wouldn't be allowed to cross the road or get on a train or get into an aeroplane. There is a certain amount of risk that we all have to put up with in life, and we're responsible for the amount of risk that we take. And if you think it's too risky to go into a supermarket and buy something because there may be people with COVID, then that's a risk you don't take. You get people in who will be there to do that risk for you and drop the food at your door. It really isn't that complicated. But it seems that we have been all driven with fear that nobody is prepared to put their head up over the parapet, anybody with power, that is, and actually can make rules, and say, do you know what? This is a madness. The emperor has no clothes, and the emperor has no clothes. But no one at the moment is prepared to say that. It is a shame. No vaccine needed, just lock up for 3 months. It's spread by the infected only. You can't lock people up. Does that mean life insurance is a con? Yes, it is a con. So their time is up because people can't wear a mask or stay 2 meters from someone. If I'm in a car and another car drives into me, it's not my fault, is it? The people have accidents on the road. People get drunk and they drive. People smoke weed. Some people look at you and they stab you because they don't like your face. It's all a question of risk. It's the same. People get influenza. I don't want to get the flu. I don't want to get a common cold. I don't want to graze my knee, but it's a risk we all take every time we step out our door. This is just another one of those things. Yet we have taken this and made it into the ogre that it clearly isn't. When you look at when you hear the news, they tell you, oh, it's gone up by 40%. Deaths have gone up by 40%. Well, if the death was only 2, 40% ain't very much. If the deaths was 400, well, 40% is a lot. But they don't give us the numbers. And 99% of people are surviving this. COVID. 99% aren't dying. This is where it becomes total madness. More people are dying from other things, especially from cancer. But nobody seems to mind. Nobody seems to care that people can die from all these other things or get afflicted by terrible mental illness as a result of all of this, about all this scaremongering. Nobody cares about that, because actually it isn't about people's health in the end. It's got nothing to do with people's health. It's actually to do with the power and the struggle. And the people who are perpetrating all of this have got jobs, have security, have money in the bank, and will be employed tomorrow, and have no worries, thank you very much. They're not living on a council estate in fear that next door neighbour is going to give them COVID, or they go into the shop. They're not worried, but they're the ones in power making all the decisions. Ernie Samet says that all of our clients are pharmaceutical companies, which is not a word I easily can say. There will be no vaccine for at least 2 years. If there is one, don't believe it. There we go. How about that? Connor's Dark Corner says, if we were able to pass, I will start going everywhere in the nude. If we are all to pass, I will start going everywhere nude. Okay. That's grand. Linda Kane says, but you're saying the vulnerable should be locked up, Richard. Some have already been locked up for 4 to 5 months. Yes, so I'm saying that at what point in history have we always the people who are ill, we have always looked after. The people who are not ill are not the culprits. So we don't need to lock up everybody. We just need to protect those that are ill. But for some reason, we're just going to lump everybody in it and cause absolute chaos with the financial crisis. And who's going to be there? Here's another point. The lockdown that we supposedly had in March wasn't really a lockdown, and none of these are lockdown. Not real lockdown is where you lock everybody. Policemen, nurses, doctors, anybody in a van who's delivering things, the supermarket, everybody. Because all the time you still have doctors going into the hospital, nurses going in, the policemen on the streets policing, the van delivery drivers, the supermarkets open. You've still got people potentially spreading the virus. Unless you can actually lock everybody in, do what the Chinese did, where they welded people into their houses, even the governments would not be able to go out. Nobody to leave for 3 weeks, whatever it is. So you're never going to get a point where you can actually eradicate the disease. And so therefore, let's not bother. Protect the people who are vulnerable to it, and they are the people over 70, and let everybody else who has that free choice, if they want to go out and go into a supermarket without wearing a mask and get on with their lives, let them get on with it. Cancer isn't like COVID, says with Dark Corners. No, cancer is one of those things that you don't know. Well, it's like COVID in that if you're asymptomatic, whatever it is, you don't necessarily know you've got it. And it could be, if you're not screened, because you're not allowed to go to the hospital or the doctor because you've been told you've got to stay inside for 2-3 weeks, it may be too late, mate. Cancer is it's similar in that sense, but cancer is something that you need to be screened to find out if you've got it, because you may think you've just got a bit of a lump in your throat, or that your scrotum is a bit bigger than it used to be, or whatever it is in your colon is encroached. Scaremongering is my favourite monger, says Nikki Jess, or is that really Mark Selwood in disguise? It's supposed to be the 24th on the list of biggest killers in the country. Way down the list. Yeah, 24th. What's the other 23? And why haven't we locked down for those 23? You love the subject, don't you, Julia? Says Ron. Ron, don't I just? I know. Robert says it's a hoax, in my opinion. It's never been about the virus. It's been about control. I think I don't know that I wouldn't go so far as to say it's a hoax, but I think the government have got themselves into a big mess. They're doubling down. Nobody is admitting that they're wrong. And consequently, because nobody can save face and nobody has the balls to say, do you know what, we've made a mistake. Everybody says, oh, we're listening to the science, which is a complete load of hokum in there, because there is science on both sides. There always is science on this side, science on that side. There are people who believe in global warming and there are people who don't believe in global warming. There are scientists who stake their reputation on this and other scientists who stake their reputation on that. Science is always divided. But somehow, for some reason, the science on COVID seems to be that it's this science or no other. Nobody else is allowed to question it. And we've had that too much in this modern day at the moment, where too many people are not allowed to question what some scientists say is science. Well, that might be their view, that might be their findings, but other people are finding something else. But we're not allowed even to talk to them about it. They're not allowed to have any mainstream views put out. So they have to be on YouTube and elsewhere. And it's madness. Nobody should be following the science, because the science is always going to be divided. So it's a complete nonsense to say we're following the science, because they're only following the science they want to follow. No one is giving me a vaccine with fetal calls and RNA and DNA altering. No one's giving me a vaccine, come what may. They want world currency. That's what the agenda is. He's got a bee in his bonnet, says Mickey Baines. Yes, well, it is the subject of the year, let's face it. I'm sure he will calm down shortly. Julia is trying to stop me, I think. Mike Stevens says, thanks for speaking some honest truth, Richard. It's a point of view. Nobody has to agree with me. Nobody has to believe a word I say. But you know, we got into the conversation, and you won't hear this conversation on mainstream media. So it's big. People don't want to hear it because they just don't want to think that the government is wrong. I'm not saying they are wrong. I'm just saying there's an alternative viewpoint that should be discussed. People should be able to have an alternative viewpoint on any subject, and people ought to have the right to be able to at least listen to it, even if they disagree with it. Because if you haven't got the alternative viewpoint and you've only got the one viewpoint, you're very narrow-minded. You've got to be able to go, yeah, okay, I get what you're saying over there. I still don't disagree with it, and that's fine. If our government has got it wrong, so have all the other countries who are experiencing the same increases as us, which is a good question and a great statement to put forward. However, none of the countries are counting in the same way. They're all counting deaths and percentages and things in completely. Nobody actually knows how many people have really died from this. There are countries who, like Sweden, for example, who haven't had to have a lockdown, have had small little things to prevent it, like, you know, okay, wear a mask in public and stay a distance and use common sense. And they seem to be scraping through without... Some people said, well, you've still got the same losses. And they go, yeah, but we didn't have to lock down, and yet we've still got the same losses. In theory, we should have had a lot more losses, if that's right, because you guys locked down, we didn't. And if we've still got comparable losses, then the lockdown clearly didn't work, did it? Which is a true point. At Home with Mindy says, I want to see my grandkids again and missing them. Best time while they're young. Go and see them. If you're not ill, the kids are the ones that are going to survive, so don't worry about that. The main concern, says Judith, of the government is the ability of the NHS to cope with the huge numbers of people requiring medical care. Well, they built the extra hospitals. They didn't have enough staff, I don't think, to actually man them. And there wasn't enough patients even at the highest peak during the first lockdown period. Now all we've managed to do is just push without people being exposed to this illness, because at some point we've got to be exposed to it. It's not going to go away. This is the crazy thing. So all we're trying to do now is like, oh my God, we've got into winter when everybody has got illnesses and people do naturally die this time of year. So of course, now you can't even count the numbers because it's all going to be muddled with, well, did he die of old age, or was it the cold, or was it COVID, or was it influenza, or was it that he just choked on his tea? Who knows? He died, so he must have been COVID. Everybody who died, oh, it must be COVID, mustn't it? It's got to be. So all the numbers are going to be skewed. I totally agree, Richard. As much as people hate to think of the truth, people are hiding from it. They won't face it. They won't even entertain that there's another view. Or if they do, they just go, oh, there's another view, but I don't believe it. Because the messaging has been so strong. And I thought we were supposed to be protecting the NHS and all of that. All of this was supposed to protect the NHS. Well, it's now moved on. We're not really protecting the NHS. The NHS got their numbers up. We had the extra hospitals. No doubt they've managed to employ people over the summer and train people up. We're not so much protecting the NHS. We don't have to go out and clap anymore and all that sort of nonsense. Doesn't that seem old hat now? Doesn't that seem a bit naff to have gone out there and clapped people whose job it was anyway, when we didn't used to clap people whose job it was to rescue people from burning buildings? We'd never go out on the streets and go, oh yeah, good job, fire brigade people, well done. Oh, your job is to go around killing people if they try to kill us. Oh yeah, well done, army, we'll clap you. We don't do that every Thursday. We never did do that. It was a very weird thing to do. I find the whole thing most peculiar. Deaths in Sweden are going up, says Glastonbury Gabriel. Well, that's okay. They didn't do a lockdown, did they? So their deaths should have been a hell of a lot higher. Masks. So that's a strange argument. A lot of people are going to die over the next 3 months that would have died anyway. And how are we going to know that they would have died anyway or just died from COVID? Masks aren't that bad. Be glad we don't have to wear a mask like people trying to survive the war just to see the sun come up in the morning, says Connor's Dark Corner. And in fact, because we weren't actually attacked by gas during the Second World War over here, although we had the masks, we didn't use them. Deaths going up is seasonal. That's quite right. Robert Baxter says a leaked document shows they've clumped the flu and COVID together now in the statistics. There you go. The virus will run its course. We are prolonging this, says Judith. Absolutely. We're doing the worst thing. We're doing the worst thing because we could have had some form of herd immunity and we could have prepared for the winter months by protecting those people who are the most vulnerable, and we know more about the virus. We could be protecting those people now, making sure they live as long as possible. But we haven't. We've killed the economy and we've made people unemployed. We've killed jobs, killed people's incentive. People are committing suicide because they're suddenly having their houses repossessed because they can't afford it. They feel they've let down their family and their children. People are having mental illnesses over this. All of this is hidden because everybody is running around scared. It's a frightening thing. Kerry Baldwin says, I think the worst thing I've heard was fining 3 kids in uni for doing what kids do, and that is partying. And yet it's not even the kids who are the problem here. I mean, it's totally ridiculous. Linda Kane says total deaths over 5,000, 220 new cases in the last few days. Wait. Cases and deaths are 2 different things. You might have 2,000 or 200,000 cases, but you might have the same number of people completely survive by the end of the week. Like you get cases of people having the common cold. They get the cold and they get better. Like most flus and viruses, most people have it, endure it, and get better. But when they say on the news and the radio that there have been an increase in cases of it, it sounds so dramatic. But we all have cases of something, a case of the the smallpox or mumps or whatever it was when you were a kid. You always have a case of the common cold, but we don't die from it. And most people, you've got to remember, most people do not die from COVID. Most people don't even know they've had it. There is a small number of people, and we know who are the vulnerable people. They're either at certain age, they've got certain underlying conditions, they're overweight. We know the problems that the most likely, yes, 1 or 2 people die when they've got it and they have no symptoms. Of course, there's always the anomaly that happens, but then perfectly healthy people can have a brain hemorrhage like that, just like my son Billy had, and nearly die. And some people do die. Some people die from no sense at all. We don't know why that is, of course. But we do know that most people don't die from having COVID, because if they did, then we would have not just 45,000 deaths in this country since it started, but we would have had something like 1 million or 2 deaths. And we're not seeing that sort of figure. We're not seeing people who would die, who are not unwell with other underlying problems, die. We're not seeing that. We haven't seen that. We haven't seen perfectly, swathes of perfectly healthy people drop down on the street and die. We're not seeing that. This is what's so hard to understand. We're just not seeing normally healthy people snuff it from this. They may have it, may be a case of it, like a case of flu, but they get over. The government put all those infected people into care homes. Yeah, the government were very irresponsible with that, and I do feel that was a grave mistake. It may have been an accident, it may have been terrible, but it was ill thought out. I had a hospital appointment a few weeks ago. The place was empty, says TurboStream. My son and his girlfriend work in the hospital, and they tell me how few people are in there. Robert Baxter, says, if you're an MP, you can test positive and get on a train from London to Scotland and not get a fine. But if we go into a shop without a mask on, yes, exactly. Linda Kane says track and trace is a disgrace, costing millions. Who actually thought it would work? Apparently, some people were requesting test kits, and they received previously used. You couldn't make it up. This is why the government. This is why I believe in conservatism, although this government is making a complete mess of it, because, the soon as the government nationalises anything, they make a complete and utter cock-up of it, because governments are just not good at running things. Look at them try and run the country at the moment. They're not good at running these things. They're rubbish. That's why private companies are better at running these sort of things. TurboStream says they dished out used COVID testing kits near me yesterday. Oh my God, can you believe it? More younger groups are being taken to ICU now. So not just the older groups, says Linda Kane. How many? How many are we talking about? About how many million kids under 18s or young people? What do we call young people? Under 25? How many under 25 people are in ITCU? I mean, are we talking hundreds? Are we talking thousands? Or are we talking tens and 20s? Yes, as more people get it, more people will have to go to ICU. I get that. But they're not in their millions. They're not in such significant numbers that we go, oh my God. But it seems like big numbers. But these aren't really big numbers. Audrey Forbes Hamilton says only 4 young people have died who didn't have an underlying condition. Nikki Jess, or Mark Selwood says, and that's the end of today's party political broadcast. Yes, Audrey, 4 since February. Track and trace is being run by private companies. Well, there you go. Private companies at the same time. I mean, yes, you picked a great hole in my argument for privatisation, but I don't suppose there's, the privatisation that I'm talking about is where the company can actually see a profit, and it's in their interest to serve the customer and indeed the shareholders. But let's not get into that. That is you could talk about the trains and how abysmally they're run, and I agree. But I just know that the government are crap at running things. Private companies tend to run them better unless they are very large private companies, and then they all seem to be just as bad as governments. I'm talking really about smaller companies who actually care about what they're doing, which is very difficult in the current thing. Holy gosh, are you still on? Yes, we're still on, and it's 10 to 10, nearly 2 hours, and we've had a good half an hour rant about the COVID situation. But it is the situation, and it is the elephant in the room. And if we can't have a friendly chat here, then where can you have it? Because you can't have it anywhere else at the moment without being shut down. People are surviving and getting out of ICU or ITU. I've not heard of ITU, but with horrendous continuous problems, they are better at treating COVID. Yeah, well, I'm not an expert in the condition of it, but I know that people aren't dropping down in the streets, that millions aren't dying. The figures do seem very low, that the government is pushing this. I just think the response is so out of sway with the cause. And when you compare it to other things that have similar problems, we don't react in that same way. Never before in the history of the world has the whole world gathered round, and that in itself makes the myth stronger that it must be so deadly. And yet, when you stare at it in the face and you look at the facts and you look, well, actually, how many people are dying? Never mind the cases, because cases come and cases go. People get better. How many people are actually dying? Who it is dying? Where are they living? How are they living? How are they spreading it? When you look at all of that, and the data, as much data as is believable is out there, you start to realise, well, yeah, it's not as grim as we're being told. I mean, how many people die in road traffic accidents? How many people die from putting on their trousers? I read a thing the other week that there are more people, it was something like, there are more people who putting on their trousers stumble and fall and end up with either die or they end up with breaking a limb from putting on trousers than have died from COVID. It was some comparison, and you go, we haven't banned trousers, have we? Because they're actually, when you compare them, they're quite dangerous. Elaine Whitelock says, yes, Richard, thanks for saying what others don't want to say. My pleasure. Eric has got COVID. He probably has. We all are best of friends in the Vobosphere, so we can sleep soundly and return on Friday. Yes, it's a myth. Is a myth a female moth? It could be. Anyway, let's end it there. We've rambled on far too long, and I had other things to do, but never mind. And you've probably got a life to lead. Don't have nightmares, and don't necessarily believe everything I say. It's your life is what you do, what you feel best. But remember, we have voted for a democratic government, not an Orwellian authority that is supposedly taking over our lives. And how we got here in this ridiculous situation where every time you make a tick in the ballot box, you're actually voting for a government that can have powers that you never thought were imaginable. It is just worth thinking about and looking at the alternative view when the government is asking you to get rid of your liberties. These liberties, we're so lucky in the West, we're so lucky in this country to have these liberties and to live the free life. We don't actually appreciate how lucky we really are that we have these liberties and these freedoms, and that we are willingly, because we're frightened and we're being told what the mainstream media want to tell us, we're giving away those freedoms. We're just giving them away without question. And that's where my blood boils, is we're not questioning the people who are putting the shackles on us. And I think we should at least question it, don't you? At least question it. And yet if you question it, people are saying, shut up, Richard. Be quiet. It's not true. You're making it up. And all I'm saying is, these freedoms that we have in this country have been given to us over 2,000 years. We have fought for this, fought for these freedoms, and in the space of a few months, we're giving all those rights away. Have a listen to what Lord Sumption has to say on the matter. He is a learned man. I'm not a learned man. I'm a nobody. Don't listen to me. Listen to brighter and cleverer people than me. Lord Sumption has a lot to say on this, and he knows about. I mean, he was a judge, or the judge of judges, whatever he was, the Lord Chief Justice, judge of judges, or judged ever judged that ever judged a judge to be. And he knows a thing or two about liberty and freedoms, and we're giving it away, and we're not questioning the people who are taking our liberties from them. That's what I find frightening, and people are just going, no, I will do what they ask because it's going to save everything. Well, it hasn't yet. In fact, I would imagine it's going to make matters a lot worse by handing away those freedoms. Anyway, let's call it quits for now, and I will be back tomorrow, hopefully, unless they've come for me. Because now you can, they may say I've been stirring up hatred for some reason because I'm just questioning things on the internet. Oh, blimey. Thank God I don't keep up with my Twitter page. And I'll be doing my reading of not William, I can't even think of his name. Walter. I knew it had something. Walter Wilkinson. Tomorrow I'll be reading that. There's another narrow boat, bit of tame nonsense for you to watch to take your mind off things. And then there'll probably be a Vobes show if I'm not in Clink on Friday. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to follow, like and subscribe. And if you enjoy my work, don't forget to become a patron and support what I do. You can do that at baldexplorer.com. I've got to try and get as much money as I can in. I'm buying a bloody expensive van, hopefully, to bring more videos to you. Excuse me. So look after yourselves. Question everything. Don't believe what I say. And enjoy the rest of your evening. And I appreciate you listening to my rantings. It's always good fun. And let's not lose our friendship. Don't let COVID do what it's done to somebody I know and kill our friendship. It's a virus, and we will beat it, and we will get through this, and it doesn't need to kill our friendship. So we're just amiable friends questioning everything. Till next time, take care, and thanks for watching. And stay safe, and look after yourself. And how do I get out of this show? Oh yes, by pressing this button. Bye-bye.